It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Wednesday. Gary, what is happening?
Well, we made it in. We didn't get really ice on the road, so that was really good. I'll tell you this really interesting coming in. You know exactly where it is. I was coming up the tollway right at 183.
Yeah.
Now, I was fine. I was going 70 miles an hour all the way in. Now, I will say this. The good thing is the winter equipment was out. All the sand trucks were out, but nobody was putting it on the roads, but they were all over the place on the way in. But I get to right there, that overpass over 183. I'm like, what is that? Is that because when I crossed over my lake, you could see, all the fog.
Yeah.
All the moisture coming up.
Right.
From the lake because it was so cold out. So I get to 183. I'm like, what is that? Is that fog? It's like a massive blizzard for like 1,000 feet.
Yeah, freezing fog.
I mean, it was snow.
Yeah.
It was snow.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
It was snow coming down because you could see it on the road blowing across. I'm like, what in the out of nowhere?
Yeah.
Just so
it was a crazy weather system because I was up here in the morning and then I had to run some errands, and the cold weather hadn't arrived yet, but it was coming, and I had to go north of here about 20, 30 minutes. I went north of here and ran into this rain shower, and I was like, okay, and I could see the temperature dropping. It was only like 51, but I could see it dropping from like 55, and I'm like, I don't want to be up here too long because you could be 20 minutes north and get a very different weather system. So I finished what I was doing, and it wasn't, I turned back around and came home. I noticed on the way in just, what they're doing now is they're doing the salt, the brine on the roads, and they did that during the day.
You mean the liquid stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so they're, you can see these white streaks basically, and you'll see them after the weather is cleared, all up and down the highways. I have no idea how much that helps, but they were all over the place. The brine trucks were everywhere yesterday, and I was like, all right, I'll just get home and finish my work there. I'm not going to get out in it. I'm not going to, take my chances. Some of the schools closed outdoor activities, I noticed, and for a couple of days. We're not going to get above freezing until, Thursday, I think? So 21 is what my truck read on the way in. But I didn't have any, the wind is pretty fierce. My house faces south, so all my main shrubs in the front of the house are pretty well, they're covered anyway. I covered them the other day on Monday, and then...
No, we won't until Friday.
Yeah. Is it Friday now?
Friday morning sometime, yeah.
All right.
And we'll come close to it tomorrow. 31, but then it'll go down Thursday night, and so we won't get over, which is a pretty significant, what's that? Almost, 36 hours?
Yeah. It's our little second batch and hopefully last batch of winter, that we get. So hopefully it'll be it.
If this is it, I'm okay.
Yeah.
If this is it,
yeah.
if this is it, and we get no snow, no ice storm, nothing, I'm okay. I've just seen everything that they've gotten up north, and I'm like, nah. Let's put it this way. The winter has been so bad and so cold that people in Buffalo are complaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it's too long and too bad. And I know because I've got a ton of friends complaining. One friend of mine, I think today or tomorrow, is headed towards Florida. He's like, I can't wait to get out of here.
Yeah. We really just don't have it bad. With the ice apocalypse a few years ago, but other than that, we really just don't have, typically we don't have, we'll get some cold spells. I remember several years ago, we had a situation where the electricity went off for a while. This is before ice apocalypse. And my gas was still running. My gas was still running during ice apocalypse, so we could take a shower, we could cook on the stovetop. My fireplace would still work. But I've got one added water line that goes through my attic. and it's a pot filler. And it almost froze one time. It got slushy, I don't know, a few years ago. I think it was during Ice Apocalypse. But there's a shutoff for it. I forgot to do it. But yesterday, as soon as I got home, you shut the main off at the street, and then you drain that line, and then there's an inside shutoff between the water heater and that valve. And so you shut that off, and then the line is drained now, so I don't have any problems. But you have to think of these. My house was built in 1968, so,
Wow.
Yeah.
Before the moon landing.
Yeah, right.
Before there was any type of technology.
Right. I was only 2 years old, a young homeowner. I bought it brand new.
Yeah, last week I had my pool off for like 6 days and then turned it on Friday through Saturday just to move the water around, make sure all the chemistry was right. And then I shut it back down again on Saturday night because I knew cold weather was coming in this week, so I won't turn it on till probably Sunday again.
I've got friends that have worked oil field for a long, long time. I have a nephew who did. He decided to go do something easier. He's a cop now. And he has told me about being in, like, North Dakota, and sometimes when they set up, like a camp, a brand new project or something, and they set up a camp, it's more of it's one of those portable buildings, really. Mm-hmm. And you just stay in that, and the wind up there just blows right through it.
Oh, just
in the
so
winter.
People know, when I say shut down my pool, I drain all the equipment where the water is above the ground. Mm-hmm. That's all. I mean, I don't put a cover over my pool. And I didn't do that from, let me see, the first 14 years I lived in my house. Mm-hmm. And then because I remember a few times being down to 15, 14, 13 degrees, and the pool just keeps running. And, the grid never shut down. And then Frizola came, and it was funny because it cost me, I was right at $4,000. Mm. And, of course, my deductible on my property insurance is what? $4,000.
Yeah.
So it's now I don't trust the grid. And this is all due to, we can all relate to it because this is all because of the mistake Texas made, as every single state of the union has made, too much wind and solar. Mm-hmm. And not enough reliable backup.
Right.
And so now this was the third time that I shut down my pool this year. But the fact is, if you got the chlorine in it, it lasts a month.
Yeah.
When the sun isn't high in the sky, but this should be the end of it.
Well, I hope so.
Well. Let's look at this here. What do we have from yesterday? Let's hear from Senator Kennedy.
All right,
Senator Kennedy. I mean,
that's a good start.
He sees things the way that we have. This might sound familiar to you.
Yeah.
The word he uses to describe Democrats may be the same word that we have used here on the radio. All right, here we go.
I've got a lot of friends who are Democrats, and they haven't asked me for advice, but if I did, I'd tell them, look, you just got to try harder not to suck. I mean...
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. Yes.
I know Ted Cruz has a podcast. Does Kennedy have a podcast? I need to find that out. It would be very good. I'd listen.
I mean, how many times have we said over and over again the Democrats just don't get it?
No.
They suck on the issues is what we have said over and over again, and that's what Kennedy meant.
Yep. It's possible that James Carville and Senator Kennedy both listen to the show. We believe they do. We like to believe everybody listens. That's just what we believe. Carville talking about, if I gave them any advice, it would be, don't do anything. Shut up, quit talking, go away, which is the exact advice I gave them about a week ago. And then a few days later, he's saying that. And that's basically it. All your ideas suck, but you keep doubling down, tripling down, and I mean, why do you still let Swalwell speak? Why do you still you're not going to stop an AOC. She's like a kid. She's just running around, hyperactive kid, and you're going to have to deal with that. But Why are you putting the same people out there with these same failed ideas and these same failed positions, and they end up helping the GOP more often than not? And it's just...
What did Turley call it? Swalwellian?
Swalwellian, yeah.
Swalwellian comments.
Yeah, and that's and that's it. I mean, what they don't understand, what I really believe they haven't put together yet. You're not fighting with Donald Trump anymore. You're taking on the parents. You're taking on the people who are trying to make ends meet. You're arguing with the people. You're not arguing with Donald Trump. That may have been more the case maybe back in 2016, 2017. Maybe. It's not now. Just like we said when they thought they were taking on the GOP in Florida and Governor DeSantis with the whole thing of putting obscene books before young eyes in schools. You're taking on the parents, and you won't win that. And you're taking on people who have been dealing with inflation for a long, long time. This is something that the current president has an issue with. He's going to have an issue sooner than later in that you're going to have to remedy a situation somehow to give them that emotional connection. Those who are, and we know it's unrealistic, expecting those prices to come down. The prices aren't going to come down. It's only going to happen through an expansion of wealth. And right now, I think they've done a whole lot of good. But a lot of people are sitting and waiting for those prices to come down, the grocery bills.
The Democrats were using that yesterday. They were coming up, they were screaming, saying, Trump promised prices would be lower on day one. And they have the audio. And we said that back the first week that Trump was in. Mm-hmm. We said, understand, it's not reasonable, but understand there are a significant number of people that do expect prices are going to come down quickly. Now, I did see a poll 2 days ago that said most people are giving him a grace period of 6 months, for example, on the prices. They like what's going on, and they realize you can't bring down prices, which is why the Democrats are pounding on it. But remember, Trump a couple of times did say prices will start coming down on day one. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're looking at. And the first week, Democrats came out and said, here's our plan. Trump said this. Here's the quote. We're going to use this against him because he said it. Mm-hmm. Well, as I've always said with most politicians and Trump, it's like all the back and forth on Ukraine right now. I'll see what happens. I really don't pay attention to the chatter. You look at, for example, on tariffs. I have no idea where he wants to go on it, and I don't believe that confusion helps the market, but Trump will say a lot of things, and you're like, I have no idea where he's going. I have no idea where he's going on Ukraine.
Well, it comes down to
there are contradictory statements every single day, and it's like, I look at Trump's eventual behavior, not the things that he says out of the box.
And that's where I was going. It was something we have mentioned a number of times, and that is you have to wait for the actions. What is the ultimate action going to be? And I don't know what's going to happen with Ukraine. I really don't. I don't know, because I can't trust anything that's being reported. I can't trust anything. I don't care if it's coming from Fox News. I can't trust, because the thing is, in a situation like that, nobody really knows the details of the conversations that are happening right now.
Right.
You don't. So anything that's being, sources say, and sources, okay, that's fine. We'll see. And we seem to say that on this show a lot. But ultimately, you have to, with this president, you have to wait and see what the end result's going to be. Quite often it comes back, and it's the liberal media is going after him. Well, he'll never do this. He'll never do this. And then, boom, he does it. Which, of course, then they're scratching their head. Oh, we can't believe he did it. Well, he said he was going to do it. So I don't know. I don't know where it goes on inflation. I don't know what happens when the 30 days is up with Mexico, or when the plan that he signed last week plays its time out in a few months here, and 6 or 7 months, whenever that's going to be, on tariffs. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Ukraine, because the story, I think it was The Hill that carried the story on Putin. Putin just plans to wait it out for, Trump to be done. For Putin to wait 4 years is no big deal, basically. Yeah, well, I wouldn't wait. If I were the frenemy that Russia is, I wouldn't say that's a good plan. It probably is his only plan. But I think Trump will act in a big way to shut them out with sanctions. I just don't know what that looks like ultimately. And you've got to get Europe on board, and they're over there whining because the vice president had some harsh words.
Right, but, I mean, then that's the thing. Trump said, Russia, he's made it clear Russia should get on board.
Mm-hmm.
And then yesterday when he's talking about Ukraine, talking about they started it.
Right, yeah.
So you don't know where it's like, did he even pay attention to what he said at that point?
Mm-hmm.
So I have no idea. I have no idea where he's going on Ukraine. Tariffs, the only thing I can say about tariffs is the fact that of the acknowledgement that he now has told the American public tariffs hurt Americans, and that's something he has never done as president before.
Well, and the executive order that is going to be a plan to put together essentially a panel that's going to study the effects on tariffs. And look at the effects on tariffs.
Well, it's not a panel. It's the Treasury Department.
The Treasury Department.
Is going to,
yes, but it's going to be a panel within the Treasury Department is what was reported. A group of individuals within the Treasury Department to basically score it, to see where it's going to come out. I don't know that I trust the people in the Treasury Department to give them an accurate score on that. This is the problem. You're running into, between the media and all of the holdovers from the Biden administration, I don't trust one single person that's currently in this administration that was there before Trump came again to being president. I really don't.
We got a great show ahead, 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Tires command a lot of attention. As a top expense for drivers and a leading cause of CSA violations, any tire maintenance practice that can help extend tire life is worth consideration. Consider tire balancing, which can set you up for savings and a smoother ride before your tires touch the highway. Tire balancing and wheel alignment are different services, but both contribute to a smoother ride and should accompany tire replacements or repairs. Tire balancing corrects an uneven distribution of weight in tires and wheel assemblies, providing improved vehicle handling, increased fuel economy, and the overall lifespan of your tires. Balancing your tires also helps keep vehicle hardware like cab rivets tight and can help with the resale value of your vehicle.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. I know Caroline Levitt is, the president's spokesperson, is using this a lot, was using this a lot yesterday. I don't know if she used it in one of her press briefings. She should. Here it is.
One of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending.
We'll prove that we can spend the money we have in an appropriate way and stop wasting so much of it.
But over the next several months, we will be looking at every other agency and program, asking the direct question, do we really need this agency?
There you go, right there. She
There you
should
have it.
play
Yep.
that.
Yep.
I don't know if she did. I think we would have seen it if she did. But she was on Hannity when they played that. And I'm like, no. You need to do that at the White House press briefing.
Yep.
And thing is, you need to use those kind of videos. In fact, you need to get more. And every time this question asked, the president's, well, actually, other presidents promised to do this and didn't deliver to the American people. Could you play the video again, please?
Yeah.
Now, the reason, and this may be counterproductive, but the reason is to troll the liberal reporters.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Friday Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. You know, very quickly, where is it? Because the Democrats yesterday, again, it's fascinating to watch them reflect on why they lost and never coming to a conclusion. They reflect on it. They talk about it.
Right.
But they just can't get to it. I went to, here it is, just thehill.com. Democrats lack a message and a messenger.
Yeah.
The Democrats just don't lack a message. They also lack a messenger.
Yeah.
While the focus is on the former, the latter is forgotten, as if somehow solving their message problem will automatically create the messenger to deliver it. In fact, the opposite is occurring. Democrats' message problems are killing off their potential messengers, as we have said. The message problem is where you stand on the issues.
Yeah, of course.
That's where it is.
Yeah.
The Democrats' message problems are much discussed for good reason. They killed not one, but two Democratic 2024 presidential campaigns. It's the first time that's happened. Two Democratic presidential campaigns failed in 1 year. First, refusing to admit their message problem, Democrats turned on the messenger. And that turned out to be former President Joe Biden, but installing Kamala Harris in his place didn't change the messaging problems. Instead, it confirmed them.
Yeah.
Harris was Biden's polar opposite in every way except one. I wouldn't say so. She couldn't complete a sentence either.
Right.
Message. But that single continuity yields some of the same comprehensive failure Biden has been facing, because November made it inescapable. There's been an unrelenting focus on the Democrats' message, coming from opposite perspectives. Carville and Bernie Sanders. Lost in this microscope focus on message is the fact the Democrats also have no messengers. That wasn't lost on us.
No.
Because we've said both.
Yeah.
They don't have a message, and which means they don't have an issue. And they also don't have a person who could do it. And then he goes through, this is great, going through the Democrats' messengers. J.T. Young wrote this. Nancy Pelosi is both too old and now discredited by Trump's return. Pelosi started the concerted operations against Trump back in 2019 with House hearings, investigations, and impeachment. She was the mastermind behind Biden's removal and Harris's insertion. Her tearing up of Trump's 2020 State of the Union address basically sealed her own fate. I don't know if that's true or not. I might not necessarily go with that. Despite her disdain for Trump, she could pull every lever, but still could not concoct a strategy for defeating him. Now he's back and stronger than ever. She is being primaried in 2026 by an acolyte of Representative AOC of New York. In the states, Newsom, Hochul, and Pritzker are all hamstrung by their failures in government.
Yeah.
Governors from states like Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, North Carolina, Ray Cooper, and Kentucky, Andy Beshear, places Democrats desperately need to win to rebound nationally, are all too moderate to win the Democratic nomination contest for president. This is probably why they were all passed over as Harris's running mate in 2024. So there you go. It's just fascinating, because it's like, well, yeah, but Democrats won't talk about that.
No.
You know, they won't sit there and say, look, we have to change where we stand on the issues. We talked about this yesterday. Identity politics is still the thing for them. They cannot get rid of that. And that's the problem on the cultural issues. Are because the cultural issues are still out there for Americans, because it's what makes the Democrats seem insane. Right. And the fact that they judge people by groups and not individuals.
Yeah.
Who was talking about that yesterday? What Democrat was bringing that up yesterday? I forgot.
Was it James Carville?
Oh, yeah, Carville brought it up. Yeah, because he actually called identity politics the racism out there. Democrats, you're not going to win elections if you promote your identity politics,
Right.
racism, or the radical transgender movement, misogyny. Racism and misogyny is not the key to winning the hearts and minds of Americans in 2025. Maybe you should consider that, and we haven't even got to the fiscal part of it yet. And the fiscal part of it is inflation help to destroy your party.
Yep.
It's a combination of that and the cultural issues and the border, where you were lying to the American public that the border was secure, that people just said no. And you have not changed your opinion on any of those issues. Not one.
No, and the problem is you also haven't changed your method. You haven't changed the whole lying thing. As long as you keep that up, you're going backwards. You're not going to earn the trust. You earn trust by, well, being honest with people. And you have to start over to do that. And they're not about to do that. They're still making up lies about Trump. They're still carrying old lies about Trump. And the American people look at that and say, it's one thing for you guys to lie about Trump, but if you'll do that, I know you're lying to me about a number of things. If you want me to believe that about him, then you're trying to manipulate me into believing anything and everything. This is what we saw with, Mark Pincus, Michael Rappaport, and other former Democrats who, those two, specifically on the Charlottesville lie, once they found out the truth, extremely angry and frustrated. They were frustrated at themselves. They were frustrated also at the Democrats for lying over and over again. I mean, Rappaport just went off. He's still going off. I don't think he's shut down since. But the idea is that in order to regain trust, you have to earn it. And the Democrats don't believe in earning anything. They just don't. It requires a lot to go in and reestablish someone's trust. So you have a base that is with you, and they're okay because they're either repeating the lies because they bought the lies, or they want other people to believe the lies. It's one of the two. And aside from that, you have more and more people jumping out of your party, Democrats, because they don't trust anything you're doing.
Well, they don't trust what you're doing. They don't trust what you're doing. They reject the racism of identity politics and the misogyny of the radical transgender movement. They now understand that inflation is caused by what the government does, not because you don't hear it anymore at all. Inflation, you don't hear it all at all, where the Democrats are out there saying it's the corporations that did it. Mm-hmm. On eggs, everybody knows why.
Yeah, right.
Everyone knows why eggs are so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Bird flu. And so the public is, I believe, look, partly in a way giving Trump a grace period, but the fact is Trump is performing on so many other areas. They're winning on the cutting. In fact, the White House put this one out, too. This would have been 4 days ago they put this one out. Really, she should use this. This was Rapid Response 47, so Levitt knew this was out there. This is more of Democrats talking about, and it's headlined, Rapid Response 47, Presidents Obama and Biden clearly love the work that DOGE is doing.
Budget reform is not an option. It's a necessity.
The American people are entitled to transparency.
We can't sustain a system that bleeds billions of taxpayer dollars on programs that have outlived their usefulness or exist solely because of the power of politicians, lobbyists, or interest groups.
They're entitled to be able to figure out where their dollars are going, and they're entitled to accountability to make sure that we're using the dollars for what we said it was for.
We are going to go through our federal budget, as I promised during the campaign, page by page, line by line, eliminating those programs we don't need and insisting that those that we do need operate in a sensible, cost-effective way.
What should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody.
We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue.
No amount of waste is acceptable, not when it's your money.
We all know the government can be
There you go.
Yeah. Again, it is clear to anybody that's, again, using their adult eyes. Use your words. Mm-hmm. You have to look at this for what it is, and the American people are with you when you're going in and you're looking to cut waste and fraud. They're with you on that. The Democrats want to peddle fear based on lies. The world is coming to an end, which is, basically the entire idea of global warming. But they every time Trump gets a win, they're screaming, he's killing everybody. He's going to put everybody in jail. He's going to kill everybody. He's Hitler. No, we mean it. He's Hitler. It's just becoming more and more sad, really.
I would use those audio cuts
mm-hmm.
and expand it more because you can find more of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were Levitt, I would play it every time they question. Look, Donald Trump is the great uniter.
Yep.
I would say that.
Yep.
Donald Trump is because the whole point is now you have the substance behind you. You know that if you say the right thing, the left will go bonkers.
Yeah.
So on this, simply play. This is what I would do. Because marketing is so critically important right now. So the American public knows. And I would say, Levitt, get up there. Somebody asks a question. Look, you keep asking questions about cutting. Understand Donald Trump is the great uniter. This is what Obama and both Biden said we need to have. Now, they didn't get it done, but they were on the same page. Trump is getting it done. They gave you words. Trump is giving you action. It's what the American public wants. It's bipartisan. Biden said it. Trump said it. Biden said it. Obama said it. They didn't do it. Trump said it, and he's doing it.
Yep.
And I would do that in order to make them become unhinged, because they will, and that's how you win. You won this last election because Democrats are unhinged.
Yep.
And that would be the advice that part of the advice I would give the Republicans right now.
Yeah.
Use this to your advantage.
Yep. That we've been saying for a long time. All you really have to do is point. Use them in their own words. Use them. Let them destroy themselves. And they do every time. But it took also someone in the GOP saying, yeah, we also have to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful that's being done right now.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Wow. I'm telling you, the Democrats just don't get it. Huge headline. Democrat billionaire donors are working to get their own Joe Rogan. We'll tell you the fallacy in that one coming up. This is fascinating. A Rasmussen poll. The majority of Americans believe federal judges abusing their power is a threat to democracy. A majority of Americans now. You know, this is something that you and I talked about the Democrats didn't get, because they're out there going, how could a guy who was convicted of 34 felonies, because the public viewed the judges and the DAs in a couple of those cases as being corrupt.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
You're trying to sell that only politicians can be crooked, but the reality is, and the people of America saw it, DAs and judges can be corrupt. They can engage in lawfare. One of the reasons you lost is because They recognize that. You don't recognize that. If you're not going to recognize the truth, if you're going to lie to yourself, you're never going to get yourself out of this rut.
Legally, there's still some work to be done on that case. Politically, Trump won that case against Bragg in November. Politically, that's the win.
Yeah,
that was the jury, the American people.
Yeah, that's been said many times. Turley said it. You know, that was the difference.
And it's the same. It happened in 2016 with Hillary. That was the jury deciding, well, she may not go to jail, but she's not going to be president. And with Trump, it was, yep, sorry, we don't buy it. Not guilty in November of 24. That was the political jury right there, the American people.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. I love this article out yesterday.
All right.
This came from the Daily Caller, but it came from Semaphore, the newsletter, the actual story. Democratic billionaire backers and a conglomeration of left-wing media elite gathered in D.C.'s swanky The Wharf neighborhood to plot a new media apparatus and address the party's failure, according to Semaphore's Max Tanney. The group that included representatives from megadonor George Soros's fund management and executives from Crooked Media, the media outlet incubated by former Obama administration flacks, gathered at the offices of Lorraine Powell Jobs to strategize how their media efforts failed in 2024, according to the source, citing three sources with knowledge of the event. They discuss how to build out their online media ecosystem, and they discuss strategies for short-term and long-form long-form videos and acquiring media companies. Let me see. The summit was also an opportunity to connect several of the party's prominent financial supporters with some of the liberal media organizations that are positioning themselves as vessels to help liberals regain digital ground they've lost to the right in recent years. The group heard presentations on how to improve their messaging and got workshops on long and short form videos. Michael Denin, who was a leading investor for Soros Fund Management, also advised on strategies in acquiring media companies. Wow. The Wharf Summit at the offices was not only the only meeting of the minds of Democratic media elite. YouTuber and MSNBC personality Brian Tyler Cohen briefed the House and Senate Democratic caucuses earlier in February on all things new, according to Semaphore.
All right.
From telling them what equipment to use to counseling them on the frequency of their posts, Cohen walked the lawmakers through how to leverage newer media platforms, he told the outlet. He even drew on Elon Musk for inspiration. Which means you got to come back to X, though. Everybody left X.
Yeah.
You have to have a presence there, but you left. Now, the interesting thing is where you see, the whole thing is they're trying to create their own Joe Rogan. Now, you can take as we have said, they had Joe Rogan.
The actual Joe Rogan.
They actually had the. But the fact is, this is almost like Air America.
This contrived approach. Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at the majority of podcasts out there, the Republican Party had nothing to do with creating them.
No.
When you look at the majority of conservative talk radio over the last 35 years in this country, it was not a brainstorm by Republicans meeting together.
Yeah.
You and I've talked about this many times. The vast majority of managements that I have worked for, the vast majority, and we're talking 95% of the management and individual owners that I've worked for in my talk radio career are liberal.
Yep.
People don't know that.
Right.
I was hired. Somebody who was my direct manager was a liberal.
Mm-hmm.
And so that didn't matter. What mattered to them is the show had to succeed because they were in broadcasting.
Yeah.
They didn't want something that would fail. So that's the fascinating thing when I look back, and that's why we chuckle. It's like, well, the majority of the managements we've had are liberal, and they've all left us alone.
Mm-hmm. I had a friend of mine call me, and he had expertise in one format. In fact, had done some work outside of radio in that same format, and in techno and in dance and some things. And he had a pretty good long side gig career, with that. And I remember him calling me saying, "I got a job offer, at the old place that we used to work at, but it was a classic rock station." I was like, "And? Sounds like a good gig. What do you think?" And I'm like, "You're a radio pro, right?" It doesn't matter in this business if you're a pro. Now, it's different if you're on the air. There is a different approach, but there's management that has expertise here or there or personal beliefs here or there, and it doesn't guide what the format is doing, as long as the talent is executing the format properly, whatever that is. Now, again, in spoken word, we've talked about how we wouldn't want to be doing sports radio ever. It's just not my thing. But in opinionated spoken word, you have to have conviction, and you have to find people with conviction. You're not going to have this contrived approach work for you very well by having meetings, or as they did back with Air America, they actually had rehearsals. If you're having to rehearse it, then you can't do it. It's not there to begin with. If you have to rehearse that, it tells me you're faking it to a certain extent. You're trying to make it something that it's not. You're forcing it. And if you don't have real conviction and know how to express that true conviction that you have, then it will never work.
I remember we had a boss, and I believe it's when we first came to Westwood 1, and his philosophy was the same as ours. If you wish to succeed, entertain, inform, be passionate, show emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that get you there. When you look at, for example, the beginning of modern talk radio that began in the late 80s, and the late Rush Limbaugh, who really, brought modern talk radio to the forefront. Mm-hmm. He came from music radio.
Mm-hmm.
We're the old guys.
Yeah.
We came from music radio. It's not as frequent now where people come from music radio, even though I do know some music radio DJs that have gone into their own podcast
Mm-hmm.
and have been, successful.
Right.
And building success on
They're
their own.
great communicators.
Right. And so the thing is, and then you've had a ton of people over the last 15 years get into talk radio. And talk radio is the precursor to the podcast that were just celebrities. They weren't they weren't radio people.
Yeah.
And they didn't last long. The majority didn't last long. Some did, but a significant portion did not. Now, though, that's not really, you see a lot of people celebrities starting up podcasts and doing their own thing. And podcasting is different from what talk radio even was 30 years ago when talk radio came into being. And so, but when you look at the podcasters, Rogan didn't do it to promote the Democratic Party.
No, he didn't.
Theo Vaughn didn't do it to promote either party.
No.
He just wanted to do a podcast.
Right. And Rogan's been doing it a long time.
Exactly.
And you start it for the right reason because you have a passion to do it, whatever it might be. Whatever approach you're going to have. If it's going to be viewpoints, if it's going to be comedy, if it's going to be all the above. With Rogan, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I think a lot of people appreciate about the podcast. But also lately it has been recognizing what's going on in what shifted. I think it already had shifted in the pop culture world. We've been saying for a long time, well, politics is everywhere. It didn't used to be that way when you and I began. Not everybody would discuss politics. But now it's everywhere because everybody has a social media presence. And then there was this pop culture approach to it. And that's really, if you think about what Rogan did, he kind of brought that in. It was like, okay, and he was listening more to what his guests were saying and what others were saying and things that he was reading. And that's how people learn. That's how hearts and minds are changed, including his. He would tell you that, I'm sure. And you can't go in and say, well, we need to do this and make this happen as a group or entity. It's either happening or it's not. And what you have to do, if you're the Democratic Party, I'll go back to what I said last week, and James Carville now agrees. Stop. Hit the brakes. If you're going to have meetings and planning, there has to be a moment where everybody in the room realizes we've got to be blunt and honest. You either own your radical opinions to the ninth, and that seems what they're trying to do, or you realize these radical opinions are not what people want to hear, and you separate yourself from the radicals. Now, those are two massive Everest mountains that you would have to climb, and I'm not telling you whether or not it's going to work for you in the end. But you cannot be dishonest as you have been as a party and believe that people are going to just all of a sudden come back to your way of thinking.
When you get, for example, Air America or what they're doing right now, okay, we need to build these relationships and have talk show hosts out there that promote the Democratic Party. That's what they want. Mm-hmm. When you look at the vast majority of conservative talk show hosts, they're not necessarily, they may agree with the Republican Party, but they're promoting more of an ideology. But the number one thing, and this may be old school broadcasting, but it doesn't matter. It's always, whether it's old school or new school, you and I understand. Now, both of us have worked in sales and radio management. The goal is to make money. It doesn't mean you can't be yourself. In fact, more likely than not, and in our case, 100%, we are who we are. I remember getting the call for the one guy one time saying, well, you guys get your talking points. And I said, so you think like at 9:30 every morning we get our talking points from the new, I think I said the New World Order. The guy went, yes. Well, most people know that's not true.
No.
Even though the vast majority of talk radio, for example, is corporate owned, I never get that from listeners saying, oh, you're parroting what management wants you to do, because we've never done that ever.
If we did that, throughout our talk radio careers, we would be far more liberal than Air America, and it wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Well, that's the thing, though.
I mean, if we were getting our talking points from our management traditionally going back through all the years, including Disney at one point.
Yeah, we work for Disney.
Yeah, then it would have been, those talking points would have been far left, and it never would have flown. It never would have done well, ever.
Right. And that's why I said the vast majority of the ownership of the broadcasting groups I've worked for over the years have been liberal. And the only one that tried to intervene once, that guy was more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not saying that they won't, that if an opportunity happened, that it couldn't happen. Certainly it could. It has not yet to this date.
Right.
And so, and the thing is, be honest with you, we're too old for anybody to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
But it works. You and I've had a long track record. I mean, you look at our company, for example. You think anybody's going to tell Dan Bongino that he has to promote a certain liberal mindset of the company?
No.
Think anybody's going to tell Mark Levin that he has to promote the certain ideology of if he worked for a liberal company, whatever? I mean, that they're going to tell him what to do? No, that's not the case. No. And so there's always been a misunderstanding from Democrats that believe, okay, there are a bunch of people out there that just wish to promote the Democratic Party. That's why you see conservative talk radio hosts disagreeing with the Republican Party, disagreeing with Trump on specific issues, because they're driven by what they feel individually.
Right.
And that's the refreshing thing. That's what the public senses. The public senses nobody owns you. You're just not parroting. You're not parroting. Exactly. You and I talk about on, and it can even happen on Fox, whatever. It's like, come on, ask the right questions.
Well, because we take ownership in what we do. We don't sit here and follow what ownership wants. We take ownership. By the way, that comes with good and bad. That means you have a great responsibility here. And we take the heat, if we ever got it wrong. We haven't. We've never gotten it wrong. but if, again, when you take ownership, I believe you have to be thoughtful in your approach, and that's what we practice. And that's what it comes down to. The talking points come from the heart.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those two elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper, or your carrier if you're leased, about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced and synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, for the most part, you talk about talk radio and podcasts. It's something that has been more organic. It comes from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Not the organization of the, if the Republican Party all got together and said, okay, we need to get all of our donors together here, and we need to come up with that's not it. And it doesn't matter whether they have more outlets.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether they have a bigger online presence. In fact, you and I have been saying this is great because they seem to be coming back to X and the debate's going on. As John Kennedy said, the Democrats need to stop the suck. Or as we've said, they need to stop sucking on the issues.
Yep.
That's why they lose. More media outlets is still promoting insanity.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Federal judge on Tuesday declined to block Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency from accessing government data or firing federal employees. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan declined to grant the plaintiff's request to issue a temporary restraining order, citing what she said was their failure to demonstrate evidence of harm caused by DOGE's access. Plaintiffs legitimately call into question what appears to be this is where she's wrong here. But this is really amazing. I don't know why she ruled this way, but it's fascinating. Plaintiffs legitimately called into question what appears to be the unchecked authority of an unelected individual and an entity that was not created by Congress and over which has no oversight, Chutkan and Obama appointees said Tuesday. In these circumstances, it must be indisputable that the court acts within its bounds of authority. Accordingly, it cannot issue a temporary restraining order, especially one as wide-ranging as the plaintiff's request, without creating evidence of imminent, irreparable harm to these plaintiffs. The current record does not meet those standards. Wow. I mean, number one, it's whether that isn't even the issue. The issue is whether the president can delegate someone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually the issue. I'm reading here, Jonathan Turley. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan has rejected the demand for a temporary restraining order against DOGE. She, however, added this point: plaintiffs legitimately called into question what appears to be the unchecked authority of an unelected individual and an entity that was not created by Congress and over which it has no oversight. Of course, this ignores the elected authority in the body of the president,
right,
who often acts through unelected federal officials. The reluctance of Judge Chutkan is palatable and obvious, but so is the authority of the president to delegate authorities to federal employees. And so she says no harm, but says this is unchecked authority of an unelected individual, which, of course, it is not. And we read the response, one of the responses to this that came from the White House, which laid it out. Are Democrats are they really that stupid? Is Chutkan really that stupid where she doesn't understand? Because when she wrote it, by the way, she's smart enough to know she knows she's lying.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she ruled in favor of the Trump administration, but in doing so, she lied.
Oh, yeah.
She knows it's not unchecked authority, and she understands the executive branch. And they even laid out, they said, Anita Dunn for Biden.
Right, yeah.
Holds the same position.
Right.
That any president can do this.
Right.
any president can sit there and say, okay, I want you to do this. I will delegate. I or the person of authority in that department that I have appointed, they are the ones who will make, they are the ones who will make that decision, not Musk. And they're out there, did great. There is no damage on this because the public understands it pretty well. This isn't hard stuff, Eric. This isn't like rocket algebra.
Yeah, exactly. We're not the sharpest knives in the light socket, but we're here to tell you.
Right.
Well, part of the problem is DOGE, with all of its transparency, how is it that we know about what's going on? Because they're being transparent. Did we know of everything Anita Dunn was doing?
No.
Was it being reported heavily?
I don't know anything of what she did.
Exactly.
So they didn't promote it.
You have these special government employees who are operating under the authority of the president. In fact, the entire goal is to look at what's going unchecked here and look at what people who are not in elected positions are doing in terms of bureaucracies. The judge, of course, has it backwards here in that remark. And you can't undermine the president's authority. Of course, with Trump, they think it's okay. You should at every turn if you can. And I don't think they're going to win this on the legal front, but you try and build, this is what the remark from the judge is all about. You're trying to build that political will to try and put an end to this by lying. That's absolutely false. And either the judge isn't smart enough to know it and is incompetent at that level, or is lying. It's one of the two. If it was okay for the former president to do it and other presidents to do it, it's okay for Trump to do it. The left never sees it that way. Thinking about this whole DOGE thing reminds me of, remember the Iran deal? And Trump comes in 2017 and looks to reverse it. And the poll that asked the American people, well, should a deal with Iran go through Congress? Well, yes. Okay. Should Trump undo the Iran? Well, no. You bring Trump's name into it back then, and it changed everything in the poll. Well, Trump's only point was, if we do this, we're going to do it through Congress. And you look at what's going on with DOGE, and it's actually the transparency is the reason we know all of these things of what DOGE is doing. There was none of that with Anita Dunn or any of the others. There was no transparency before, none. In fact, it was like pulling teeth trying to get, or maybe dentures might apply, trying to get the former president to talk to the American public. My gosh, after the botched exit of Afghanistan, he had to be forced to come back off a vacation and then literally turned, after saying a few words, turned his back on the American people. This is a transparent process. It's why everybody is seeing it in the news every day. I wish I had 1 million Dogecoins for every time I read Doge in the news. I don't even know what a Dogecoin right now is worth. It's just insane how the left is behaving, but no different from how they've been behaving.
Yeah, and I don't know how much fraud there is. We saw with the GAO estimated roughly between $300 and $500 billion in fraud in the federal government, and so it's a concern. How much of it actually will come to fruition? Will they be able to prove? And will they prosecute? If the fraud's happening, then I want prosecutions.
Oh, yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Not just to fix the problem, but I want prosecutions. How much and where precisely it is, that's why Elon Musk is looking at it.
Yep.
If the fraud is 1/20th of what Elon Musk says it is now, I'm still happy with it.
Yep.
All I want is this is something that is needed in this country. And when you look at where we are, the amount of money that we spend, the amount of interest on the debt that we have now, this is not sustainable. And what Trump is doing here is one of the most necessary things that government should have been doing. To Schumer or anybody else, any of the Democrats who say, well, this is something that Congress, you didn't do it.
Yep.
You got us to this point, you didn't do it.
Right.
That's why it's so important to keep playing what Obama said, what Biden said, what Al Gore said.
Yep.
It's important to play those audio cuts over and over again because everybody promised to do it and nobody did it. And what we are doing to future generations is unconscionable.
Yep.
It really, really is. And this is an absolute necessary thing that needs to be done because you're attempting to tackle something so monstrous. Mistakes will be made. I'm okay with it.
Yep. Yeah.
There may be other things that I disagree with Trump on, but they're actually minor compared to this. This is the thing that will bring our country down. The climate change, the biggest threat we face? No, fiscal insanity is the biggest threat that we face in the United States. And it's tough. Trump took something on that has the potential to backfire against him.
Yeah. Yep.
It has the potential to backfire because when you start cutting and you start, because this is just the beginning of it, the waste, the fraud, everything else. And then when you get down to, okay, did you see that Elon Musk was talking about a rebate?
Yeah.
To the taxpayer.
Right.
It's like, well, we'll see what happens. We discussed that yesterday. We'll see if that happens. And by the way, he can't give the rebate. This would have to be the government that gives you the rebate, just so you know.
Right. Yeah.
Elon Musk can't hand out the money.
No.
But this is one of the most serious things that we face. It is the most serious thing that we face domestically. And whether it was what's his name, Kevin O'Leary, it's not enough. I don't know if it is or not.
Yeah.
When
Right.
Kevin O'Leary said it, we played the audio cut yesterday. I don't know what he would do, or what can be done more than what Trump is doing right now from the executive.
I get it from O'Leary's standpoint, private sector, you go all in and you crush it, but this is not the private sector. And it's just not going to work in the like it does in the private sector. Look, I'd say they've definitely adopted a number of the measures and the overall approach to a large extent from the private sector, but it's not like when you come in and you purchase a new company and you get rid of duplicity or anything else, or you purchase Twitter and you fire everyone but yourself. And then all of a sudden it keeps running the same way it always did. Then you get 3 liberal reporters to actually tell the entire world what was going on behind the scenes before you took over. Oh, my gosh. But I know where Kevin O'Leary is coming. I know what he's trying to say. For a lot of us conservatives, it will never be enough. Until we get rid of $36 trillion, it won't be enough. And that's not going to happen in our lifetime. It isn't. And, I'm nowhere near as old as you are, Gary, but I'm getting old. And so, I go a little hard on the near, maybe.
Well,
I'm realizing more and more things. It's like, nope, I'm never going to see that. That's never going to happen.
When Trump brought this up during the campaign, we said, why is he doing it? The public isn't asking for it.
Right.
And I said, but we've talked about leadership. That leadership is when you tackle something that the public isn't necessarily asking for, but you tackle it. And as he did, he brought the American public with him because now the American public is behind what he is doing.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Oh, man, the conversation or the arguments being used by the left right now, I mean, it gets into just such bizarro territory. I mean, every single day I wake up saying, what dumb thing are Democrats and liberals going to say today?
Yeah.
And every day I get rewarded. Every single day I get rewarded with a nice chuckle and entertainment, and at the same time say, I can use that audio cut at work tonight.
Yeah.
And so that coming up here in a little bit. Plus, Circuit Court here's a headline, Circuit Court puts final nail in the coffin for Biden's $500 billion student loan forgiveness plan, where he went against the Constitution. He went against what the court said. Clearly what he was doing was constitutional, and all Democrats backed him.
Yeah.
And cheered him when he said,
right,
I'm not going to abide by what the courts say.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet Earth, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here this morning.
Maybe Elon will make us the number one talk show on Mars.
Well, that'd be okay. That's
at least until Rogan gets there.
Nobody's listening, but
yeah,
that's some audio that we wanted to play that actually is a couple of days old. There's just so much audio out there, but this I think is worth it. This was last week, the House Judiciary Committee holding a hearing on the censorship industrial complex. And they had Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger there. Now, this is fascinating. They rehash some things, but it's important that they do so. Just so the public understands on everything, because it's important to look back at what happened. It's important to look back and hear from people that are Democrats, that are intellectually honest and saying what the hell happened during the Biden administration is unacceptable in a democracy. This is why they can't win. They can't win because they refuse. They didn't care that the government was involved in censorship. They're for it. You know, we know it. We know the mainstream of the Democratic, whether it's the old guard or the new guard, they're all for censorship. We know that. We saw that with Hillary Clinton when we played her audio from a couple of weeks ago, and also John Kerry, who said the same thing. The First Amendment gets in the way.
Yep.
But here's part of this back and forth at the House Judiciary Committee hearing last week. Representative Barry Moore talking to Matt Taibbi and Matt Schellenberger. This is fascinating stuff. Stop what you're doing unless you're driving. If you're driving, continue and watch out for patchy ice. Okay, here we go.
The Biden-Harris White House has censored campaigns, and certainly they've targeted information, satire like our friends at Babylon Bee, and other content that did not necessarily violate the platform's policies. Mr. Taibbi and Mr. Schellenberger, I kind of want to dig in a little bit with you guys on the Twitter files and let y'all tell us a little bit about what you found. So, Matt, what was some of the really most revealing things you found as you were going through the Twitter files? And now, Elon Musk, I understand, was a Democrat. You were a Democrat. You admitted being a Democrat. But now we're seeing a shift. So tell me, Mr. Taibbi, what is it that causes the shift, number one? And number two, what did you find that troubled you the most as you were going through that? And then, Mr. Schellenberger, I'll kind of want to pick your brain a little bit on that, too.
Mr. Congressman, thank you for the question. I don't know the answer to the question of what caused the shift. It's a mystery that we've all been trying to look into for years now. I don't know why there's a sudden concern when Donald Trump or Elon Musk does something, but nobody stood up, even for Democrats, when they had their speech suppressed. In the Twitter files, we found requests from the FBI that Aaron Mate from the Gray Zone be removed at the behest of the Ukrainian Secret Services. Nothing. No major media organizations covered that. In terms of academic freedom, one of the first things that we found was that Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who's in line to be the head of the NIH, that he was on a trends blacklist at Twitter. That was on the first day of the Twitter files we found that. Nothing. Nobody covered that. They called it a big nothing burger. Same thing with doctors like Harvard's Martin Kulldorff or the University of California's Aaron Kheriaty. When they criticized lockdowns, they were de-amplified and or removed. So academic freedom, suddenly it's a big concern. I agree it's a big concern, but it's a concern in both places. And so it's very frustrating to see that shift. Michael, do you have a...
Yeah, Michael, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about maybe the Twitter files and, too, the shift and now where you're seeing people who would normally identify as liberal maybe are now coming to the side of our party or to political argument for conservatives to say, hey, free speech matters. What you say, you should be allowed to say what you want to say in a free market. So,
my view is that Democrats will look back at giving up the free speech issue to Republicans as just a catastrophic political failure. I've changed my mind on a lot of issues, written 2 books about it, but I never changed my mind about free speech, never changed my mind about the illegality and immorality of weaponizing government. When you look at the history of it, in the 1930s, the repression by FBI was against the left, against the radical left. You look at the defense of flag burning, that was by the left. You look at defense of free speech, often it's by the left. So it's been a reversal. The left, the Democrats, came to embrace the weaponization of and censorship because they became so powerful and so entitled at ruling under the Obama administration, I believe, and the intelligence services.
I was going to ask you when you thought it started, but you said earlier about 12 years you could remember, but certainly Biden-Harris kind of doubled down on what Obama started, but go ahead.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's right. I just think Obama, after, 8 years of Obama, they transformed the intelligence community, became much more left-leaning, much more partisan, and so there's an inorganic and an organic part of the weaponization and censorship, but clearly you see people, we reported on the activities of John Brennan, Obama's CIA director, authorizing reverse targeting or bumps to basically instigate the whole Russiagate hoax. You see these partisan actors in the intelligence and the deep state agencies engaging in these activities. You see it with Democrats as well, and that's just bizarre for anybody that's studied this.
Yeah, it's like the chairman mentioned, just the fact that IRS happened to knock on Matt's door the day he was testifying here. The whole system itself, whether it was big tech and the federal government, that is a terrifying option when you see those people working together to target the free speech of American citizens. So, and it wasn't just Twitter, Matt. I think we saw a memo where Meta, you said Meta actually, maybe Facebook had been targeted more, I guess, by the administration, a little more difficult to get their message out or a little more stringent on how they allowed them to speak freely. So you want to maybe...
Yeah, this committee did an extensive report on the Facebook files. They uncovered emails showing repeated requests from the White House to de-amplify figures ranging from Tomi Lahren to Tucker Carlson, constantly. And we also found in the Twitter files similar communications from the same people. Also, reporter Alex Berenson found this out about his own account from the New York Times. He found this. They repeatedly pressured Twitter to take down true information, true reports. And these, again, he's not even a conservative. He was a longtime New York Times reporter who was removed from the platform, and again, silence from the mainstream press during that time.
Yeah, I never could figure.
There you go.
Yeah.
I just fascinating to hear that and how the Democrats. I don't know of one. Do you know of one Democrat that has spoken out against what happened and the censorship that happened and said, "Look, we need to realign ourselves completely and say we're not going to accept this anymore." And they haven't. I don't know one Democrat.
No.
Has there been one? Not even Fetterman.
No.
Has anyone come out and said what happened and what happened during the Obama administration and then what happened, the continuation through the Trump administration, the Biden administration, to censor the truth and to use government intimidation and coercion to stop the truth from getting out there is something that we cannot be behind. In fact, you see the opposite. You see that when you have J.D. Vance over lecturing Europe saying, you need to be about free speech, that the left in this country and the media in this country, we saw it with Margaret Brennan, the sympathy that 60 Minutes showed to Germany, that they're saying that free speech is the cause of problems and the cause of the Holocaust. I mean, just bizarro things, and they just refuse to accept that, look, we were wrong on this. And the thing is, it doesn't do anything if you're gonna move your party forward to say we were wrong on all these things. We need to move on, and they're not doing it. All they're doing is saying, okay, maybe if we have more media promoting the same thing that didn't work for us, that's going to work. Because that's what you and I've always said. Liberals believe that you just haven't got their message yet.
I think what you're seeing right now is, because not even a Fetterman you mentioned, and there was talk about Fetterman. The rumors went around. He squashed those rumors that he might be switching parties. He said it's not going to happen. My advice would be to any Democrat in office that if you highly disagree with where your party is, you shouldn't be a part of the party. Because it's not like the concern that conservatives had with the GOP, and at times still have with the GOP, of not getting the message out, right? It's not that we disagree with you on the issues. It's we disagree with you on what you're talking about, what you're focusing on. And then sometimes you get up, and go on a tangent. And we talked about that where, wait a minute, that's not a conservative a position to want to rein in the credit card companies and limit what they can charge on interest and everything else. That's a very liberal position. We've talked about that before. So, but that's not, those are, we can sit and that's not cherry picking. Those are isolated incidents where you can say, okay, wrong, wrong, wrong. This is the problem that the Democratic Party has had all along. They've never allowed any dissent. They've never allowed for their party to do anything other than what the radical base is intimidating them to do. So you either become the radical or you have to leave the party. You have to get out. Because if you don't believe in that ideology anymore, in that these radical ideas that they are promoting, then you can't stay in that party. You don't belong there. I can't tell you belong in the GOP, but you don't belong in that party. And it's that clear cut for me. It would be very clear. This is not, and we hear that from a number of them, Tulsi Gabbard and others that have left their party, the mayor of Dallas that left the party and said, sorry, the party no longer represents what I believe. But I think there is a very clear line with a number of them, and they know. I don't know why you would try and turn around this massive Titanic. You've already struck the iceberg. It's not iceberg dead ahead. There's a massive gash in this ship that you're trying to control, and it's going down. It's not something I would want to be on board for. And if it doesn't represent your values, don't try and reinvent it. Don't try and patch the hole on the side. You need to get out.
Well, again, there is no hope if you're a Democrat. Excuse me, there's no hope because there's no indication that the Democrats plan on changing at all.
Right.
I mean, as we brought you earlier, the billionaire donors getting together with other donors to say, okay, we need to have our own Joe Rogan. We need to create more of an online presence for Democrats. They're not talking about the fact that, look, you had more money than Trump had. Mm-hmm. Your message sucks. Now, we say that. You suck on the issues. John Kennedy now also says you need to stop the suck.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you stand on the issues. And they can't change on the hardest thing to do. How do you reverse that you have the moral high ground because you practice racist identity politics?
Right.
How do you and you believe you have the moral high ground by doing it?
Mm-hmm.
That's why the whole your whole anti-racist movement is actually the reverse. It's racist.
Yeah.
And in the radical transgender movement, it's misogyny.
Yep.
It's intimidating and threatening young women. How do you change that? How do you reverse that tomorrow when that's been the core of what you believe? And as we talk about the misogyny of the Democratic Party and the radical transgender movement, except two Democrat members of Congress, everyone still voted to have men in women's private places, men playing women's sports. They are as radical as you can get. It is the most radical major party I believe we've ever had in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
By the things that they believe on open borders, on defund the police. And I don't believe they've changed on any of it. Defund the police, they had to at the local level.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get destroyed in elections. But still, the federal party, which I mean Congress, from the federal level, they don't care at the Democrat side. They don't care.
No.
They're trying, they believe that they're right, which is why they're trying to form now all these new media groups and have a bigger online presence and find the new Joe Rogan or find a Blue Eye Radio that they
exactly
that they can have out there, because their belief is you just haven't heard our message yet.
Yeah,
that's the problem. You don't know where we stand.
Yeah.
We need to provide the message to you. No, as John Kennedy now agrees with us, your message sucks. You suck on the issues.
Well, and if you're a radical to the core, then you're going to keep doing what you're going to do. There is no changing that. Expecting people to change, you tried everything. You tried the mob mentality. You tried everything to get people on your side. And the fact is, they never really were on your side. You had to intimidate them to do that. You had to go after them and threaten to punish them, and in some cases actually punish them to get them on your side, or at least not disagree with you. Those days are over.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Yes, so when you see when you think about it, when you think about just over the last couple of days, J.D. Vance going and saying, lecturing the Europeans on freedom of speech, and then the whole Germany thing that we played part of that audio yesterday on punishing people for telling lies. Remember, think about if you had that same law, how many people would have been forced out of their business, would have been destroyed financially, or gone to jail during COVID if we had the same system of Germany.
Oh, yeah.
Think about this. And the government was the one that did not want to tell you the truth. Right. And in many cases, they knew what the truth was. By the time you got to the Great Barrington Declaration in October of 2020, we knew what the truth was. Or there were many questions of, well, wait a minute, I don't know what the truth is here. You have a doctor here saying one thing, a doctor here saying another thing, debate it out. Let's see the evidence of it. And the federal government didn't want anything to do with it. And you saw how they tried to destroy the reputation of all those doctors in the Great Barrington Declaration. I mean, it was just, you and I looked at it and said, this is scary. And so then when you finally got the Twitter files, and and I'm so glad the congressman from Alabama pointed out that Elon Musk, Taibbi, Schellenberger, all former Democrats.
Right.
All of them Democrats. And you see some of the people that are tearing apart the censorship industrial complex, the ones that want, for example, Elon Musk, get the fraud out. These are all things that Democrats have promoted before, which now they want nothing to do with, whatsoever. And wait till you hear some of the arguments, because this is where they're weak. And I think it's important to bring up over and over again why the Democrats haven't been able to rebound, and it's because their stance on the issues.
Right.
And wait till you hear this arguing point about the arguing point is, we'll have this coming up from a CNN panel discussion. The arguing point is, since one of the rockets that Elon Musk shot off blew up, he's not qualified to do what he's doing.
Okay.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app, available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I need a water or coffee. It's been so busy, I don't even have time to go to the refrigerator, get my snacks anymore.
No? Why not?
It's just too busy. Just so much going on. It's okay. I enjoy it. This is my addiction. Mm-hmm. It's a healthy addiction.
Yeah.
Except for being up in the middle of the night.
Yeah. No.
But
yeah.
I've been sleeping good lately, though.
Yeah, over the long weekend, I slept like crazy. Yeah. One day I slept 12 hours straight through.
Wow. See, anybody who's up during this time understands, like normally if you were during the day talking about sleep, who cares? But when you work third shift, people want to know. I know I'll get some emails. How do you sleep? I'm having troubles.
It's
I work
one
third
of the
shift.
first things that the question we get. In fact, our agent that we've been with for years asks us every time we're on a meeting.
Yeah.
So when do you guys sleep?
Every single time he does.
When do you guys sleep? I don't sleep. I sleep about 5 hours a day usually, but this past weekend, woo.
Yeah. Yeah, he asked us recently again.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's okay. As long as my health stays up, this is and I never wanted. I've told the story. When I came on this show, my goal was to stay a year, be on a national show, and, use it as a springboard to something else. Mm-hmm. And somehow I related to your odd personality.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that I have an odd personality.
Yeah, there's that. There's that part.
And so here I am. Wow. Here I am 20 years later this July 15th.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't seem like it's going to be 20 years,
Well,
does it? It just
No, I mean, when going back to the all-night show on WBAP, Bill Mack basically created the all-night show in 1969.
Mhm.
And so when he left in 2001, they said 32 years. They asked me, Hal J, legendary morning host, and is still today the host at WBAP in the morning. And he asked me right after Bill Mack left, he said, all right, he was here 32 years. Are you going to be here 32 years doing this? I said, no. I couldn't even wait to get it out of my mouth. And it's going on 29. So, and I have zero plans of leaving. Zero. I want to keep doing it as long as I can, as long as I can. It's more enjoyable than it's ever been, and I can say that every day. Because what we're seeing, I do wonder. Something hit me the other day. I thought I was doing a project. I'm doing this new rainwater irrigation thing. I've got these rain barrels I'm setting up for my wife for her awesome vegetable garden and little fruit orchard in the backyard. And I'm out there working, and I'm thinking to myself, would it be as enjoyable if the shift, and we're talking about this morning with Michael Schellenberger and others, essentially talking, Matt Taibbi and others talking about, the shift that happens and has happened in recent years and how things have been going and why others have been, they themselves, in fact, are not maybe as far left as they were before, and other people have really kind of moved over. And I thought to myself, would my job be as enjoyable? I know I would still love doing it. The difference would be I would get less entertainment personally out of it without the liberal overreaction. And that's the conclusion I came to. I would still love doing it if that shift weren't happening. And it felt like for the longest time that it was a small group of us conservatives, over in this corner of our little, existence, and that on Capitol Hill we weren't represented, and that things weren't moving the way we wanted them to move. And now that has changed in a big way, and I hope that that's going to continue to change. But it would still be, of course, it's always worth the fight. We're always going to be passionate about it. It's not going to change who I am, but it will certainly add to the entertainment value if the liberals keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, the entertainment value is so great because when you have such incredibly bizarre opinions that the public looks at as weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. Remember when they tried to use that for Trump?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Yeah.
During the campaign, Trump is weird. It's like, guys, did you workshop this before?
Yeah.
Did you focus group this at all? You make a good point, though. I think anything goes through different stages. You and I look back to the summer of 2020, and we go back to 2020 and COVID and everything that happened and the intimidation that we felt. And as we've said, I have never felt it so strongly, the blue wave of intimidation from 2020, 2021, even to 2022, those 2 years. That, and a lot of it had to do with COVID.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even with the defund the police, even with the whole critical race theory, even with the the defund the police and police are systemically racist, everything that we went through at that particular point where you saw a movement. And I won't say it was a voluntary. Well, everything is voluntary because you can refuse to do it. But people, I think, felt threatened or intimidated, and I think you see it in the polls today.
Mm-hmm.
But when we go back to because we would still back then play the conservative hosts that would go on to college campuses and say, "So you really believe that somebody who is a man can be a woman? Yeah. Well, do you believe that a short person could be tall? Well, yeah." And everything. You could tell that was the intimidation that they felt on the college campuses. They all knew it was BS, but they had to agree to it because they didn't want to be punished in college because of it. And so, there are times when we were more, that we've been more passionate than entertaining, I'm sure. But passion can be entertaining in its own way. So I think you just go through stages depending on where you are. But I don't think that our passion ever changed. In fact, it probably was redirected at that point saying, to hell if we're going to go along with this crap.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really the attitude coming in every day. We're not going to put up with this crap. We're going to fight this, and we're going to fight this, not gonna. I've talked about this before. I think the thing that really the last defense of sanity in this country in 2020, it wasn't even coming from the podcast. It was coming from conservative talk radio.
Yeah.
That's where it was coming from. Joe Rogan hadn't made his evolution yet.
Right. Yeah.
And you think about, 2020 and what was going on. The only ones that stood up for the truth, the only ones really, when you look at it, was a few conservative media outlets and conservative talk radio.
Yeah, that's, and that's, I guess my point on feeling like we had been isolated to this little corner, right?
Yeah.
And that nobody was hearing, but our audience notwithstanding, but most of America was blind and to it and was not or chose to look away from it and wouldn't hear it. And it was frustrating because it was like, how do you not see this? When we talk about Mark Pincus and others who have made this transition, it's awesome that they have, because I know where their change of heart is. But I also still have that question. Why couldn't you see it before?
Lindy Lee,
we talked about. I'd love to go back a year. I don't think these are, because I think with Pincus and these other, and Lindy Lee, I don't think these are people who are not critical thinkers. I think they all are, which tells me it was not an overnight transition. It was not something that happened just from one single event. It wasn't happened. I don't think it happened just over one political season, one political year. I think they were seeing it, and I think there was a level of intimidation or a feeling that they felt maybe they had, and I don't know this, but I wonder if they felt a responsibility to keep repeating whatever the trend was, which the left created these trends that were going on. You just mentioned a number of them. We were not about to go along with those things, but you saw corporations going along with them. You saw people changing their logos. You saw sports franchises or sports leagues change the entire scenery of their games in order to incorporate those messages into their entities. And that, to me, I think has an effect on people. I don't know if it applies to Mark Pincus. I don't think it applies to a number of them. Michael Rappaport, probably not. But I would love to sit in a room. I'd love to have a panel, just an open discussion, because I do believe these people are being honest as to where they are now and everything else. But if we could really get to the roots of where was the beginning of the changing of the hearts and minds, that's really the key to not just winning elections, but winning back our country. It's important that this movement keep going, that common sense and reality rules, and the truth is always important, and it not be burned out in this scorched earth that we have created over recent years.
And while that blue wave of intimidation was happening, the government was doing everything they could to coerce social media and the mainstream media not to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And to censor. And and we know, for example, Barry Weiss's, Matt Taibbi's, Michael Schellenberger, we know what was the final straw for them. I really think the Twitter files scared the hell out of them when they realized.
So. Yeah.
But think about this. Look at the argument still coming from the left. This is from CNN, okay? And this is Karen Finney, a Democrat strategist with Kevin O'Leary and Scott Jennings. Here we go. All right.
You can't say Elon Musk doesn't deliver on what his mandates are, putting people into space and landing rockets in space. I mean, let's just give the guy some credit. He can deliver. You may not like him, but he's saying, look, I own this network called X. I paid $45 billion for it. Let me go into these agencies. I'll pull the data out. I'll publish it. You look at it. Tell me what you want to do and let the government decide on their own, because I have no executional rights. I'm just shining the light of transparency on the fat dripping off every chicken, and I'm looking at it saying, whoa.
He is getting
Can you believe
a lot
the
of
waste?
the fat, though, right? Elon Musk is one of the biggest beneficiaries of government aid.
Got it,
And
but
the
he's
question-
being transparent.
We hire him to do things.
Right.
We hire him to
rescue
our astronauts.
Which makes,
We're in outer space, right?
Which makes it a problem that he can go in and look at all the government data and see everybody who gets paid, see what they get paid,
How many
where
other
they
people
live,
are rescuing the astronauts? Are there other competitors?
We hired
him to do it.
Can I just mind you, though, SpaceX, the last launch they did, it blew up. So if that's who we're counting on to bring remember President Trump was there.
Are you really casting aspersions on this company?
I'm just saying.
That's the thing. Elon Musk, the rocket blew up, so he's not qualified to do this.
Right.
This is how intellectually bankrupt the left is right now. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. So, we played that audio from CNN, and you could hear their arguments that Elon Musk gets aid. No, he gets hired by the federal government. He has made the statement before even the whole DOGE thing came up that he doesn't want subsidies for his electric vehicles.
Right.
We've talked about that before, but he actually gets. And you and I said we'll always watch to make sure there's not a conflict of interest. That'll be pretty easy to point out if there is.
Yeah,
we said this a long time ago about Musk. But so it's not aid. But remember, the subsidies for electric vehicles is what everybody on that panel who was criticizing subsidies to Elon Musk, it's what they wanted.
Yeah.
They wanted
right.
it.
That's their side.
Yeah. And I've noticed lately, and this happened, we'll give you an example coming up, where the media sets a false narrative.
Right.
They're corrected on it, and then they come back and they say, they make it seem like the opposition was holding the same opinion that they had to begin with.
Exactly.
That they weren't.
Right.
I'll give you an example coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
To continue where we were last hour, this is what I love about. This is what's pretty entertaining, but what people probably hate about the media. We love it when they try to pull it off because we can call them on it. This is Stephen Miller on with Brianna Kellar from CNN. And this is where we said it the last part of last hour, where the media makes up a narrative that isn't true.
Yeah.
That they know isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
but then they continue to challenge you on it. And when you give them the answer, they say, yeah, we already know it. And then they continue on the same narrative, knowing that what they're saying isn't what the White House has ever said, yet they keep insisting that it is a possibility.
Yeah.
And this is where the media and CNN talked about the fact that Elon Musk is an unelected bureaucrat. We know that's the talking points, right? That an unelected bureaucrat is making the decisions. And from day one, we said, well, no, he reports to the president. The president is that elected representative. How stupid are you? Don't you know how it works? And advisors work for presidents and the federal government all the time. End of story. We said that. That was 2 weeks ago. Why is it an issue now? They're questioning, well, but, and listen to this here, because you can tell she's getting impatient. Stephen Miller, though, has done a lot of training for himself because he must have got a lot of training or just learned a heck of a lot from his first term because he just plows through it, just continues to plow through it. Here's how it works. Here's how, almost like she's a first grader. But listen to this. Here we go.
Charge of DOGE.
She asked who was in charge of DOGE, by the way. That just started. I'll start again. Here we go.
Charge of DOGE.
The President of the United States.
He's the administrator of DOGE?
No, the DOGE is what was formerly U.S. Digital Services. It's an agency of the federal government that reports into the Executive Office of the President, which reports to the President of the United States.
Okay.
The way that Article 2 works is the president wins an election, and then he appoints staff, including myself, including Mike Waltz, including Susie Wiles, including Elon Musk, and those staff report to him.
Okay, well aware. So Elon Musk, a week ago...
Did you hear that? Well aware. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Answered a question about transparency at DOGE. This is how he spoke about DOGE.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the DOGE handle on X and to the DOGE website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
You hear him there. We post our actions. All of our actions are maximally transparent. Does Elon Musk know he's not in charge of DOGE?
Now, he never said he made the decisions, did he?
No.
Never said it.
He didn't say he had authorities.
So she's continuing a narrative that the White House has never made that was already answered once. And then goes back with an example that doesn't make her point at all, that she claims makes her point.
It doesn't apply at all.
No, I know. It's just amazing the way that they work. Here's Miller's answer again.
Again, the president.
Again, I just love it. Again. Here we go.
The president runs the government, then the president appoints advisors, including Elon, including myself, including all the other staff here at the White House, and then those staff in turn execute the president's commands and directions to all the agencies of the federal government. This is how democracy works, something that we treasure in America. The whole American people go to the ballot box, they elect the president appoints staff, the staff that administer his orders and directives across the whole U.S. government.
Okay, Stephen, I get that, but...
No, you don't get it.
No,
you don't
Quit
get it.
saying that.
You don't get it. It's like you refuse to get it.
Right. I get that, but I'm going to tell you why I don't get it.
But the funny thing is, I was not a fan of Stephen Miller in the first term. I made it clear probably when I first saw him speak after the president was elected. And I went, whoa, he's really improved. He just patiently plows through it all over and over again.
Yeah.
And you could tell she was not happy that he was going, here's how it works. This is a democracy. It's just incredibly funny, but that's what the media does.
Yeah.
That's why, if you want to know why people hate the media, that's why they hate it.
Right.
She's making a case that the White House has never made, that Elon Musk makes the decisions and Trump is not in the loop. Trump never said that. Elon Musk never said that. That's her narrative. He answers the question correctly, that the president is the elected representative and everybody reports to him. Then she uses an audio cut that does not prove her point at all.
Right.
It's simply Elon Musk saying, because he's a part of the entire group. So he's saying that's like a quarterback saying our team, and the sports reporter saying, but the coach runs it.
Exactly.
You're saying our team, the coach runs it. You said the coach, you're just the player. You follow orders, so it can't be our. So she's using our as the reason, which is just ridiculous because, let's put it this way, normal people don't think that way. That's not connecting the dots. There's no critical thinking or common sense in her questions.
Imagine the coach of the Cowboys saying, listen, my team that I put together, and then Jerry Jones butting in going, listen, I own the team. It's my team. It's mine.
Well, I mean, it's just, and I almost said Stephen Smith, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen Miller, he just smiles as he's going to answer the question. I'm going to go through it all again, knowing that knowing that in a way he's actually trolling.
Yeah.
Her.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what you have to deal with. They set the narrative. They come up with their own truth that you haven't even said. Accuse you of doing something that's their truth, not yours. You're not promoting it. There's not an argument. It's simply you've come up with something that nobody's ever said, and then you attempt to justify it with an audio-video cut that doesn't justify your point of view. And then you keep saying you get what he's saying. Well, you don't get what he's saying because he's telling you how it runs.
Right. I get it, but let me tell you why I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah. He just said our. Yeah. He's part of it. It really is frustrating for them to see things getting done. It really is. Stop it at every level. These are the talking points. They've clearly gone out to everybody in the liberal activist media. I'm sure Chuck Schumer sent out talking points. We must stop Elon Musk. Because if DOGE can't get the work done, if the American people, all of a sudden there was this huge groundswell of individuals that stopped DOGE from doing what they're doing, then the liberals would get their way in keeping these bureaucracies in place without being checked. They know how powerful they can be by acting through these bureaucracies. Michael Schellenberger has already pointed out the funds from USAID that were used and how they were used in just a couple of major ways politically.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? He did point, yeah.
And the left hates that.
Yeah.
They hate that because the thing is, the videos of, and we played the audio from it, Obama, Biden, Al Gore, back then when we want to do these. Ultimately, especially with Obama and then Biden, wait a minute, hold on a second. We don't want to get too close to the fire here because we can use some of this. They know they can use it politically, and they did.
Well, one of the interesting things is MSNBC had to admit, this was on MSNBC yesterday, that DOGE is perfectly within legal bounds to look at sensitive data. Mm-hmm. Because they said, it's like, well, no, of course the government, the departments, or the president doing an audit, this isn't where they're releasing your private information out there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course the president has the ability, in order to make sure that there's efficiency and no fraud, he, through his surrogates who report to him, absolutely have the legal right to look at sensitive information in order to ensure that the department in the executive branch is operating correctly.
Right.
Here it is. This is MSNBC yesterday. Here we go.
How are, is there any kind of potential legal issues here?
Yes. I mean, to name a few, you have the Federal Privacy Act, you have the Internal Revenue Code. Those all have strict rules about disclosure. But it's really interesting. A decision came out yesterday involving the Department of Education and a challenge to access of that information. And this is a decision that I think folks should look at because it's one district court judge concluding that there's a difference when it comes to determining irreparable harm. There's a difference between disclosing information to the public and internal agency disclosure within the agency of that information, even if there is a risk that that information could be disclosed publicly. Those statutes I just mentioned have remedies for that. And these plaintiffs, at least in the Department of Education case involving this kind of access, the court found that disclosure internally may not be the kind of irreparable harm that would warrant a restraining order. Now,
there you go. Because how do you solve the problem if the agency itself cannot look at the sensitive data, or the president of the United States looking for abuse, fraud, whatever, has no access to find out whether there was fraud or abuse? And we brought that up last week.
Right.
Of course you have access to it.
Right.
Of course.
Again, it's the left is, well, other presidents have done it, but this is Trump. That's basically where they have been now since 2017, since he took office in 2017. Well, other presidents have done it, but this is Trump. This is different. We shouldn't let him do this. This is what they've all been doing. Now, the difference is Trump is actually getting to the bottom of things. Trump is actually doing something. Oh, we can't have that. We especially can't have Trump doing that. And it's their standard, It is their standard. And then they act like they're the conservatives, as you mentioned earlier. They act like they're taking the conservative side. Well, we don't want this because Elon's company is getting government handouts. You guys were all about the EV handouts just about 5 minutes ago. In fact, I suspect you still are, except when it comes to Tesla, which he has said he doesn't want them.
Right. And talking about his contracts, that's the government hiring you because you have certain expertise.
Right.
Through, from what I know, the majority of what he's gotten, unless there's some contracts where they say bidding isn't allowed, where he is because of sensitive information or the technology, whatever. But in any other case, it would be a bidder.
Right. Yeah.
When you look at the Tesla's, what was it, Tesla armored vehicles that the Biden administration wanted.
Right.
That was the Biden administration that did that deal, with him. And so they wanted him to produce products, and they put that out for general bid. He was the only bidder.
Yeah. Right.
And so they call it aid. No, it's a contract to perform a task.
Right, yeah.
But they have to say aid because they know if you say, well, the government hired him, that doesn't have the same impact.
Right.
They're not going to win this. They don't have an argument.
They never do.
Every single argument they brought up in the last 2 weeks against DOGE has failed miserably.
Right. Because they're desperate to stop DOGE from doing what they're doing because they know they were able to fund so many things through USAID and through other bloated programs, and that's going to end. Their agenda was getting done with taxpayer money, and they don't want that to stop.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Kellar and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, we'll tell you about another court puts the final nail in the coffin for Biden's $500 billion student loan forgiveness plan. Look, we knew all these things, and if you've been a long-time listener to the show, which means from last year, we said that all the college loan stuff would eventually be overturned, whether the money went out or not. That will set another precedent. And every single thing that we said would come true a couple of weeks ago with DOGE so far has in the rulings, because it's obvious. We understand how the three branches of government works.
Yeah.
What they're really upset about, I saw this narrative was going on. Does one person really control the executive branch? Well, that's not right.
No, that's it. But it's not that it's one person. It's that it's that particular person, Donald Trump, for them.
Right.
They're okay that Joe Biden couldn't find the podium with both hands. He couldn't, this guy didn't know where he was at any given time. That they're fine with. And why was that? Well, because they had and we know this now, it didn't matter if it was Jake Sullivan or anybody else, because they were all in charge. They all had their little thrones within the Biden administration in order to control everything.
When I saw that, I just burst out laughing. Are you telling me that one person controls the executive branch? One person? Well, that's not right in a democracy. Why does one? And I'm like, wow, you have no idea. And this is the beauty of it. They show their ignorance of the U.S. Constitution. They have no idea how it works. None.
Right.
Because really, it's not about Elon Musk. They're angry that the one person that has control of the executive branch is Trump. And all of a sudden, there's this outrage. We can't believe now, because now it's going to slowly move on from that to, well, then we can't have the Senate.
No. Yeah.
We can't have the presidency because one person can't have this much power to audit his departments.
We can't have just 9 justices on the Supreme Court. 9? That's not enough. Let's pack it. Yeah.
330 million justices of the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
Then the people get to speak.
That's right.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Yeah, so what we're seeing here is every single day that goes by, we find out that the narrative from the mainstream media and the Democrats falls apart, falls away, even on their own networks.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought you the one report that was done on MSNBC, where they had to admit that what DOGE is doing is legal, that the president of the United States, through Elon Musk, can go into agencies and look at sensitive documents to find out whether there's fraud or inefficiencies, that they can do it. It's not the same. If they release that information to the public, then they get in trouble.
Right.
But the fact is, of course, because how do you correct any situation if you're saying, remember the whole thing about the Department of Treasury, that the Treasury Secretary can't even go in.
Right. Yeah.
Remember, it was just like, what are you talking about?
Well, no, I mean, they're to the point that, the president shouldn't have executive power. You mean this particular president, you don't want him to have executive power. I mean, that's where they are.
So it has to be depressing if you're watching MSNBC to see that, but also this here. Because remember, we read the thing in the Hill.com yesterday, the one woman and head of some Social Security group that said, they're saying they're going in to attack waste and fraud. They're just going to take your money, your hard-earned money. It's like, there's no indication of that whatsoever. And then you hear, there's no fraud. There is no fraud. There is no fraud. Then MSNBC had to run this here in the last few hours, which means the last 48 hours or so. I don't know exactly when this ran, but this ran. Here we go.
There was an Inspector General audit last year that showed over an 8-year period, the Social Security Administration made almost $72 billion in improper payments, a little less than 1% of payments in that time period. Now, the report also says that most of these improper payments were overpayments, not payments to deceased people or people who didn't qualify to receive these payments. At the same time, Jose, this effort by DOGE is to go through this agency like every other and try to weed out waste and fraud.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so it's got to be pretty depressing, because we played those two audio cuts from the last couple of days from MSNBC where they go, no, what DOGE is doing is legal. Well, we said it was. And again, the media is the one that was setting the narrative, and the Democrats setting the narrative that an unelected representative, well, no, the elected representative is the president of the United States, and he gets to do this. And we told you what the courts were going to do, and the courts are doing exactly what we thought they were going to do. Right. And so they keep throwing out stuff every day, but it mirrors the election.
Yeah.
That every time they would throw out something, they get defeated on their argument, and it's over and over and over and over again. Look, I would be if I was a Democrat, if I was a liberal, I'd be upset because every single day I'm getting defeated on my argument.
Yeah. Yeah. No, seriously. And here's the thing too. They used to get away with it because there was a more concerted effort from the liberal activist media altogether. You know what I mean? They all seem to be on the same page. The difference is reality is defeating them each at every turn, right? Scott Jennings is doing a lot of the heavy lifting over at CNN and doing a great job. But reality really is delivering them this harsh defeat at every turn. And they can't stand it. They really can't stand it. They can't stand that he won. They can't stand that his administration now, we're just over 4 weeks in, is well underway in terms of getting things done. It's been a very, very busy 4 weeks and not quite 2 days. They really can't stand that, because what this does, this really gets back to what John Kerry was saying, what they have been saying in recent days about, free speech and this and that. And, they're going in every single direction that they can. It's like they're misfiring. But John Kerry's point a few months ago on free speech is blocking our agenda. Mm-hmm. Well, reality is blocking your agenda. Free speech, in the era of community notes, is going to block, it's going to bring reality, the truth, to the surface every time. And think about that. This is why they really can't stand any of them now. They don't, Zuckerberg now, they don't, I saw one of the actors, the guy that played Zuckerberg and the social media movie. What's his name?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah. And, I really don't associate with, Zuckerberg and, the whole thing because of, he cited community notes. Well, why would you be afraid of that?
I know.
And he said, you've taken the fact checkers out. Actually, you brought the best fact checkers in. The the user public on that forum or any forum that can come back and say, nope, this is and give it the feedback, is always going to be the best approach. There's no scenario where it's not the best approach. Because things in an AI world, we talk about one of the failures of AI, or one of the problems with AI, is it will go out and round up all the garbage that's out there. But Community Notes brings it together so people can use that to give the proper feedback and bring reality and the truth to it. They don't like this at all. The truth does block their agenda, and the truth does defeat them every time. And everything was working for them. They controlled the narrative by controlling social media. They literally were controlling social media. They controlled everything. They had the funds. Now that we know the work of Michael Schellenberger, they had the funds to go through with the first impeachment. And before that, the Russian collusion hoax. All of this gave them the ability, the funding, everything, the power that they needed to defend their opposition, which included you if you got in their way. And they can't stand that that's coming to an end.
What defeated them, though, was the truth.
Yes, exactly. Exactly what I was saying.
Everything has come down because
the truth
of the truth. So
defeats you every time.
You can get power in the United States. That's why we cherish our Constitution, because the Constitution and the way that it was set up and the separation of powers, you may have losses for a while, as the conservative movement did. But as you see now, it's victory after victory after victory. And now you see, constitutionally speaking and politically speaking, it's been devastating for the Democrats because they can't they can't handle the truth.
Yeah,
I mean, the truth is what has defeated them, and people have looked at, where they've stood on the issues and just said, these things don't work.
Yeah.
In the real world, they don't work. You've shown us that the things you want to do actually harm society. You're actually hurting society by what you believe.
Right.
And so it's horrible. But even when we got time to do this. Even when you look at internationally, Pierre Poilievre, if he gets in, you're talking about a government that will have, this is in Canada, that will have very like mindset of the United States. Germany's election's taking place, in 4 days now? And, the media went crazy. What must Europe think about us? There's been a number of articles, and I don't know if we said it on the air or off the air, that, I don't care what the politicians think. Are you reaching the people?
Right.
Did Vance's and message, did it go to the people? Did the people say we're sick and tired of what's going on? I don't care whether you necessarily speak to a world leader in that kind of a thing, if it's not what's going to get you the win. The win is if you can get the European Union, Europe, Great Britain, to embrace free speech, Germany to embrace free speech. That's a positive for all of us.
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting because this is Christine Anderson, who is in the European Union Parliament from Germany. You'll want to hear this. Here we go.
Afuera. We need to end the man-made climate change hoax. USAID, afuera. A government agency that fraudulently wastes taxpayers' money, engages in money laundering, and acts as a CIA front to manipulate public opinion abroad to effect regime change must be taken down. USAID has even indirectly funded the Wuhan lab from where the Chinese virus was leaked, which then ushered in the COVID totalitarianism. WHO, afuera! These people are fed up with these unelected bureaucrats of this lobby organization for Big Pharma, who are unaccountable to no one, except maybe to their Chinese donors. President Trump is showing us the way. And unless we want to go down in history as complete idiots, we should follow his lead.
Wow. So don't pay attention to what the American mainstream media tells you.
Right.
You know, well, J.D. Vance shouldn't be telling other people what to think. No, he's telling a lot of people in the European Union.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe not all the politicians. He's talking to the people, and even there in the European Union, that German representative is saying, yeah, the message coming from that administration is the correct message.
Right. You know, and that's another thing, too. The liberal activist media, especially the global liberal activist media, there's so much distortion in it in terms of what J.D. Vance was saying, of anything reported about the Trump administration. This is why I was saying earlier, I don't know what to expect. I don't know anything about the talks with Russia, about the whole thing with Ukraine. Look, I hope it goes the way that is in the best interest of the U.S. That's what I can say. But I have no idea what the talks are leading to, what they're about, or what has been said so far, or what Trump's ultimate goal is. But I sure can't trust anything that's coming out of the media, things that were happening on the fly with Vice President Vance. It's, again, they'll take one quote and run with it. Or they'll write a story, you know, with only one or two quotes inside and write an entirely different narrative around it. And it can't be trusted. As you said, don't trust anything they're telling you about this. J.D. Vance was not alone in his thought. He was not alone in the thoughts that he conveyed when talking about Europe. This is not something that is isolated to only half of the United States. There are people all over the world that see the insanity that's going on and want it to end.
Well, I want the United States government to be promoting worldwide that our values are based on the Constitution of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want.
Yep.
If somebody is hurt by that, I don't give a
I don't care.
I don't care.
If it makes you cry, then here's some tissues.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So there you go. The U.S. 8th Circuit Court of Appeals put the final end to former President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness plan on Tuesday. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey originally sued the Biden administration over its nearly $500 billion effort to wipe away student debt, known as the SAVE plan. The court's Tuesday ruling found that Biden's Secretary of Education had gone well beyond this authority by designing a plan where loans are largely forgiven rather than repaid. So there you go. We knew that was eventually going to happen because we knew that they had gone way over what Congress had authorized at that point.
Right.
And so we were right on that court case. We were right on all the DOGE court cases so far.
Yep.
Why? Because we're not liberal idiots. We understand the Constitution, so we knew eventually what was going to happen in all of these cases.
Yeah. We're also right about, America not wanting to cut things. This is, by the way, part of the outrage of DOGE against DOGE is that cuts are being made. Oh, my gosh, cuts are being made. We've known this for a long time. It's going to be difficult to actually make cuts. And the left, of course, is going to scream about it when Donald Trump is doing it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.